Welcome to Otaku Talk. It's me, your boy, your host, OD. And today we'll be reviewing and analyzing chapter 326 of My Hero Academia. Uh, I have a few things to say about this chapter. Uh, I really thought we had finally, departed the Fields train, but my man said, nah, one more stop. So this was a really interesting chapter to read. I don't feel super strongly about it, but it had some really endearing moments. If this is your first time on my channel or you haven't done so already, I would really appreciate it if you would just take a second to like and subscribe. Would really help me out in growing my channel. Please join my League of Otaku. Anyway, without much further ado, let's get into the review. All right, guys, chapter 326 of My Hero Academia. Who are you really? Man, I was not expecting this chapter. Earlier when they showed Stain, I kept thinking that Stain was going to be someone that spoke to Deku. I thought that before Class A, before Class A, he would drop in, give Deku like a spark of wisdom, motivational talk, but not your typical motivational speak, just Stain-esque, right? Where he's basically telling him how heroes are corrupt and blah blah blah, but you've always shown true, and this is the moment where a true hero would blah blah blah, and that All Might was blah 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 blah. Like, I thought that was going to be the case. If you had told me that Stain was going to lecture All Might himself, bro, I would not have seen that coming. So that's just massive points to mangaka, because that was actually some really creative writing. So anyway, we start off this chapter with All Might down in the dumps, reminiscing about how he kind of got put Deku into all of this, kind of put Deku into this and promised his mom and promised himself and Deku that he would look out for him. And then we saw that not any fault of All Might's, but Deku kind of thoroughly embraced the role of the hero that he is, the replacement of All Might, the the continuer. I know there's a better word for it, but the continuer of All for One, or One for All, I should say. And so All Might is feeling really bad about that. He's looking at the statue of himself that we've seen several times now, one that says "You're not here," and he's just beating himself. And he was like, "What are you like? What have you done? Like, all of this is your fault." And it's really sad. And there's a nice little parallel too about how when he was quirkless, how he was very similar to Deku, and how he like ran into danger despite not having quirks. And I really like that parallel. But for some reason, he's beating himself up. He seems to be taking all of this as his responsibility, even though, in my opinion, there's not really much else he could have done. He tried his best. He saved countless millions. He's put away tremendously powerful foes. So for him to be beating himself this hard is just, an example of, someone being too hard on themselves. Anyway, Stain hears this random dude shit talking his favorite hero and comes to confront him. And he's like, why are you blaspheming a great hero, right? And, as the person, All Might feels every right to shit talk himself. And he's just like, yeah, man, like, I ain't shit. He goes on to say, like, he goes on to say, oh yeah, we never met like this during my active days. And Stain's like mad confused. He's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I'm All Might. And Stain doesn't believe it, so he goes into his All Might form for like a second before he's forced to rebound back, both because of whatever injury he has, and I'm assuming as well as the fact that Deku has One for All, right? And so Stain proceeds to refuse it as him. Talk about meeting your heroes, right? And I just kind of love that part, because you have this hero, you have this idol that you look up to, and then you meet them in real life and they don't quite match up to the expectations that you previously had for them. And it's either deny that that's your hero, that's the same person, or have your dream crushed, have your idol destroyed. And so he decides to go with the former, right? But he takes it a step further, and not only does he, refuse to believe that. By the way, let's make something very clear. Let's make something very clear here. He knows it's All Might. Like, he knows it's All Might. But, it was a little bit of a shock to the system, but he doesn't miss a beat, and he realizes that All Might's going through a trial or tribulation of his own. And so he uses this as a quote unquote teachable moment. And so Stain suddenly jumps on All Might. All Might kind of freaks out at first because he wasn't prepared for it. He didn't sense any killing intent from Stain, which, as we know, is something massive, as what we saw like earlier when Stain really did have like massive murderous intent. That shit like made their hair stand. So like he was not prepared for this at all. And I think All Might in that moment kind of made peace that he was going to die. But our expectations are thrown for a loop because it's actually not Stain trying to kill him. It's actually Stain trying to show him something. And we see this woman come out and she is cleaning off all the graffiti off the All Might statue, removing the you're not here sign. And he's like, look at her. Look at her. That's the last person you saved. Yo said you gotta stop being so hard on yourself. You're an actual true hero, and the embers that you set out are spreading. And not necessarily talking about her, but like basically when in reference to her, he's talking about how the fact that because of All Might, she's alive. Because of All Might, her faith has been restored or hasn't dwindled. And because of her, she refuses to let the world collapse into, darkness and despair. She's coming out every single day to keep this statue clean. Every single day, out of both respect for All Might and, I would assume, respect for what he represents. And so I thought that was really, really nice, man. And then talking about the embers, like he was more so talking about the next hero generation, right? Because the crazy thing about Stain is he's not a villain at heart. Like, yes, he's done really, really drastic things, really unforgivable things that, yes, he does inevitably have to pay for. There's no question about it. But in this kind of sick, twisted, like Deadpool, Joker kind of hyper sane way, he believes that what he's doing is for the better world. He thinks that his actions are just. He sees himself as a martyr of sorts. The thing with Stain that, some of you might or might not remember is it's not that he hates heroes, because I forgot for a second what his deal was. I had to refresh myself. It's not that he hates heroes, he hates fake heroes. He hates people that take on the hero role just for fame, just for money, because he doesn't believe that's what you should do. That's not what a hero should be. A hero should be someone completely selfless and devoid of, personal accolades and wealth. And they should be someone who just purely wants to do good for the sake of doing good and protect people. And that's why he has always idolized All Might. And that's why he has always chastised and admonished, people like Mount Lady and stuff that like only care about rankings or care about fame, or, some people get into this to, for wealth. Because we do find out that being a hero can be a relatively lucrative career. Like people have whole agencies and whatnot. So I can kind of, from a degree, get where he's coming from, but I could never agree with going out and killing people just because you don't agree with how they handle things. That's like me saying, I don't like flopping in basketball, so I'm going to go and murk every basketball player that flops. Like, on paper, I get it because it's gonna scare the rest of the basketball players. They're gonna be like, damn, if I flop, am I gonna get murked? And it's the same with the heroes. It's like, damn, like one of two things. One, if I keep, going out there just doing this job for the wrong reasons, is it gonna cause me to be killed by this hero killer? Or is it, or another ideology is it worth me getting killed for fame, for wealth? They're going to start weighing the pros and cons. And if you're doing something out of like money and not because like it's like being a doctor for the sake of, money and fame, as opposed to what being a doctor is supposed to be about and helping people, it's not a good look, and you're not helping out society. You're contributing to all the things that are wrong with society. So relatively simple chapter, relatively short chapter, but I felt it. But I really, really felt what the mangaka was going for. I felt what Stain was going through, and I've kind of found it super cool that like this really bad guy that knows he's been a bad guy is going out of his way to put All Might back on the right track. And I love that he recognizes that not only has All Might, kept the embers of heroism going, he's inspired the next generation, and the next generation isn't that bad. We saw that he has a kind of respect. He has a respect for Deku. We see that he kind of sees heroism in Aida, right? So yeah, man. Like I said, I wasn't super enthused by this chapter. I thought it was a nice chapter. I'm not gonna put it higher than it should be or lower than it should be. It was a good little standalone, separate chapter to let us know where the headspace of All Might is, to set up any possible things that All Might does. Like, oh, for example, a great setup chapter, because before he leaves, he gives All Might a paper with, I'm assuming, everything that he's learned from being amongst other criminals and villains in Tartarus to help him. And I'm going to assume that paper is going to be extremely, extremely, extremely beneficial and purposeful for the plot in terms of figuring out All for One's next moves and figuring out the League of Villains next moves. I also really love this part. This part really took me for a shock. He was like, get your shit together, wipe the dust off, get yourself up, and come for me, the guy that has killed tons of heroes. And I was like, wow, like that's accountability on another level. Like, few people have accountability, and for like a villain to have it is really, really like cool and kind of audacious, but still cool nonetheless. He's like, I understand I've done bad things. Personally, I felt the reasons I did them were justifiable. But however, in the grand scheme of things, in a world that I believe needs to exist with real heroes, a real hero should come and take me out. So yeah, man. We'll leave it at that. I really love the end scene where the girl who's cleaning off the statue says, "Oh, the rain let up," because it was raining for the whole entire scene. But like the rain let up, but All Might starts crying. So Uh, like I said, dude really wanted. We really thought we were off the Fields train with the last chapter. We are like, all right, cool. Deku's accepted. We're good now. Off the Fields train, and just it was like, nah, one more stop, one more stop. Maybe that this might not even be the last stop. We might get some more feels, but I'm excited to see what comes of this. I'm excited to see what information is in the paper, and I'm very curious if we're planning on killing All Might off, because All Might has been dying forever. And honestly, I felt like if there was any time for him to die, it should have been numerous times in the past. There were numerous fights, numerous altercations where it would have been really good from a story standpoint to kill him. But I don't know. I just feel like All Might kind of deserves to live out his life in peace. He hasn't even enjoyed his quote unquote retirement. Um, yeah, one could say this was like a death flag. One could also say, he's gonna have one final moment where he uses the last vestiges of uh One for All, and like, saves a bunch of people or does something. That would be cool, but I don't know. I feel like All Might has sacrificed enough, has done enough at this point where another like forced in your face showcase of heroism wouldn't really do anything for me. Like, yeah, it would be like, oh, he went out like a badass, he went out like someone deserving of Valhalla or something like that. But other than that, like, I don't think we need to force him to like have another heroic moment. All Might's always been that dude. So anyway, I'm gonna leave the review here for today. I got stuff to do. I just really wanted to talk about it, and I missed, I think, reviewing last chapter. Very sorry about that. It's been a busy, hectic past couple of weeks for me. But yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed my review. Please like, share, and subscribe. It would mean the world to me. I would greatly appreciate it. And yeah, just have a great day. This has been Otaku Talk. I'm your host, OD. Take care.